I am on a mission. And the mission is, I gotta start collecting again 1/3 scale statues, and it starts with this Invincible Iron Man by Legendary Beast Studios. Welcome everyone from What's on the Table. This is Prof G and you are watching another episode of Graded, the show wherein we're not just going to unbox or review a particular statue, collectible, or figure. We are actually going to give it a grade at the end of each video. So for this episode, we are going to grade 1/3 scale Invincible Iron Man by Legendary Beast Studios. Now before we begin, I gotta set the tone of this video by saying that this is my very first Legendary Beast Studio statue, and it's actually up for my first because this particular Iron Man statue by LBS was recognized as 2024's best 1/3 scale male statue of the year by Rad Tyrant. And even a lot of statue collectors worldwide are already shifting their attention to Legendary Beast Studio statues. So I did my homework and just made a huge decision to open my doors to 1/3 scale statues again, which will probably be a huge adjustment because my shelves were made for 1/4 scales. But when I saw the Legendary Beast Studio statues lined up, I don't know, I just felt like they all looked good together, and I could just imagine having them in my display shelves with almost consistent height, consistent storytelling pieces, and quality. And it starts today. Before we begin, I would like to thank the Statue Brothers for securing me this piece, priced at around 106,000 pesos, which is roughly around $1,800, maybe close to $1,900. I ordered this Invincible Iron Man Premier Edition from them, and I got a bunch of pre-orders for other Legendary Beast Studio statues and even other brands from them as well. And as you can see right in front of you, we have this massive, heavy box of Invincible Iron Man, and I just can't remember when was the last time I lifted a statue this heavy. I mean, yeah, I own 1/3 scale Prime 1 statues, but I don't recall it being this heavy at all. I mean, if you know me, it's clearly a good sign, as I can already tell, this is going to be packed. I mean, have you seen the promotional materials? At first, I couldn't even believe that for that price they're selling it, we have a lot of inclusions. But let's save that later once we open it. Once you get it out of the shipper's box, you are greeted with the collector's guide provided by LBS, and it shows you basically what you are getting, all the parts, and the difference between the regular edition and the Premier Edition. Once you remove the cover, you have 2 levels of styros. Now upon separating the 2 levels, I would have thought that it would have been easier for me to carry it. Still, I was wrong. It's still heavy, and we gotta check out the contents of this one by one. Styro level number 1, you have this massive base of the Invincible Iron Man, which we will check out in full detail later on. You have the power supply and its USB-C, and since we have the Premier Edition, we have 2 torsos. This one is the torso included in the Premier Edition, posed as if Iron Man is fixing something from the hands and arms part of the suit. And torso number 2, which is the one included in the regular edition, is the one where Iron Man is raising his hand and ready to blast his enemies. Both torsos are unique, and it's gonna be a lot of fun switching out different torsos with the 5 different head sculpts included. Speaking of head sculpts, we have styro level number 2, which has all 5 head sculpts perfectly lined up for you. Head sculpt 1 is the standard one, a bit modern with its look. Head sculpt 2 is kind of similar to head sculpt 1, but the main difference is that it was sculpted to be looking up. Head sculpt number 3 is kind of like the best of both worlds, where you can see the face of Tony Stark with an open mask. So far, I am really digging this one. Head sculpt number 4 is you have the more classic Iron Man mask, and if you look closely later on, you will see the eyes from the inside, so no light up feature here. And head sculpt number 5 is the fully unmasked Tony Stark. Good portrait and really gives you the comic book look of Tony Stark, if you ask me. After drooling over the 5 head sculpts, you have some other parts and attachments here, like the disc that you usually see at the sides of his suit, the regular edition arm where his arm is raised in blasting action. Arm number 2, which is also included in the regular edition, is where it's just straight in at the side, which I think will mimic the look of him preparing to fly away or something. And arm number 3, which is the Premier Edition arm inclusion, is where he is carrying his helmet, which of course is perfect for the unmasked head sculpt. You also have the lower body piece here as well. Again, I gotta be careful with it. But so far, I've been holding every piece here with no gloves and I don't see my hands or fingerprints leaving marks on the paint job. So yeah, that's really surprising. Now this is a great inclusion. You have a pedestal for the torso that you won't be using in a display. So this one, if you play your cards right, will serve as like a second statue piece, more like a bust or something. And it looks like a mini base where you can also see different helmets or mask designs of Iron Man surrounding it, and two attachments of letters to be pegged into the pedestal base. Now that we've seen all the parts, and yes, we do have a lot of interchangeable parts and accessories, there's nothing else left to do but do the assembly of this 1/3 scale Legendary Beast Studios Invincible Iron Man Premiere Edition. My collector friends, this is the 1/3 scale Legendary Beast Studios Invincible Iron Man. Now I am going to be brutally honest here. I've owned a lot of Iron Man statues and figures from 1/6 scale and a lot of 1/4 scales, and even seen Iron Man statues that are also in 1/2 scale. Owning this, and I'm sure the video that you're looking at does not give it 100% justice, I can honestly say that this Iron Man design has one of the most commanding presence in terms of its overall design and quality. I mean, if you think about it, the fact that it's in museum pose and still has that centerpiece worthy of a presence is just a unique attribute. From the bottom to the top, this statue screams prestige. This statue screams quality. This statue screams premium. This is one of those times where sometimes the pose of a statue does not need to be too fancy or be too dynamic to be a head-turner piece. And I gotta tell you guys, this is it. This is definitely it. But there are a lot of things that we need to unpack and discuss about this statue, so let's go ahead and begin, shall we? First, the base. Now, in true Legendary Beast Studios fashion, at least from the different statue designs I've seen from them, I really think this is one of the greatest design assets of the company, where they treat the base as a story. If you watch my previous graded episodes where I always say that the base is sometimes an afterthought and tends to be generic as statue companies focus on the actual character instead of putting an equal effort in their bases, well, Legendary Beast Studios gives us their unique calling card by giving us a base that will never be considered generic or an afterthought. Moving it around, you are gonna see various looks of the Iron Man helmets, from classic style to even a much more modern design. I mean, seeing all the sides of the base, it's really fascinating to see, as some of the designs that they showed here are not something I was familiar with. I mean, yeah, I get the popular helmet looks like the first appearance of the Iron Man helmet and some of the modern take helmet designs, but it's like a history lesson over here. Every time you see it, you're gonna see something different or something that will make you think, wait, have I seen that before? Or something like, which comic can I see that Iron Man helmet design? Ladies and gents, if you want to display a Legendary Beast Studio statue, prepare to buy a rotating table or Lazy Susan. That's what I'm planning to do. Second, the body. Now, like I said a while ago, even though this is a museum pose Iron Man statue, it has a very unique commanding presence. You have two poses that you can play around with. You have the regular edition pose where you see his arm is raised ready to blast someone off using his repulsor ray, or you can use the Premier Edition upper body torso where he has a different pose, you know, kinda like he is fixing something or tightening something from his armor. Which one do I prefer? Well, I like them both. It is a good thing we have that pedestal so we can display both upper body torsos at the same time. Now let's talk about the paint job. You've seen me do the assembly of this statue and I didn't use any gloves, and surprisingly, it still looks clean. It's not a fingerprint magnet or stain magnet and easy to clean, so that's a huge plus for us collectors. But the red and gold color tones, the paint job on those, this is not an exaggeration. I really think it's flawless. And if you also notice, there is no artificial shading on the Iron Man suit. It may seem like it has, but what's making it look as if it has shading are the contours from the suit itself. It really looks clean, and with how I handle each part in the assembly process, you can definitely tell how solid each and every piece is. Again guys, if you're not too familiar, this is the classic look of Iron Man and it is based in the comics. So if you're in the age bracket where you're used to the MCU look, I don't think you're gonna be too disappointed here. But for my preference, I've just seen too many MCU Iron Man versions of statues and the classic look wins each and every time. And Legendary Beast Studios gave that to us. Third, the head sculpts. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 head sculpts in total for the Premiere Edition, and all of them have a unique selling point. Now, until now, I still can't decide on my favorite because it all looks really great. I mean, if you think about it, you got 5 interchangeable head sculpts. In my experience, I was already happy with getting 1 extra head sculpt, and the most I got was probably 4 from my XM Studio statues and even Prime ones, but 5 head sculpts is a lot. The good thing about this is no matter what torso you use for these head sculpts, it will still mesh well. You got the regular edition head sculpt, the look that we usually see in the comics, the same helmet but it looks up, the best of both worlds where his front mask is open, the helmet where you can see his eyes inside. I think this one is underrated as you really gotta look close to see it in full detail, and you have the head sculpt of Tony Stark himself, which is perfect if you're using the swappable arm where he is carrying his helmet. Mix and match those head sculpts with swap out arms and torsos. Trust me, you're gonna have loads of fun, and the only problem you will have is deciding which combination you will use when you display it. Last but not the least, the light up feature. Powered by a USB-C power supply, this is one of the features I truly admire in this piece. No matter what combination you use, it all works perfectly, and if I may add, those lights are actually really bright. From the base to both palms of his hand, his reactor, and the eyes. Turn it on, and this is what you're gonna get. Not bad, not bad, not bad for my first LBS statue, am I right? I just noticed that there is a sudden shift in my interest wherein I gravitate more on museum pose statues instead of the full-on dynamic poses, and the LBS lineup really opened it up for me. Now if I'm being honest, this is a new territory for me once again, as this is my first 1/3 scale statue purchase after a very long time. But objectively, I tried looking for something I didn't like about this statue. Believe me, I did. I tried checking if there were fragile parts, tried checking if there are paint mishaps, if the light up features are bright enough for the display. I even did the knock test to check if parts sounded hollow, but so far, everything checks out. I didn't complain about the base as it's filled with Easter eggs and stories. I love all the portraits and the generous inclusions. I mean, if you've seen my videos, you know I would never give a perfect statue score because, well, there's no such thing. Having said that, for this 1/3 scale Invincible Iron Man by Legendary Beast Studios, with its design, pose, the build, paint job, accessories, accuracy, features, and the price that I got it for, I am going to give it a grade of 9.2. So far, it's the highest grade I've given in any of the collectibles here in Graded, and since I am just getting back to the 1/3 scale statue space, I wanna hear you guys out. Let me know in the comment section below what you would grade this piece. Thanks again guys for watching another episode of Graded. If you like this video, please give me a solid by subscribing to the channel and turning on the notification bell, or just give me a shout at the comment section below. If you own the 1/3 scale Legendary Beast Studios Invincible Iron Man and would give a different grade, please let me know in the comment section below. Thanks again guys, this is Prof G and you just watched another episode of Graded. See you all on the next one.